Under the banner of the ACT Alliance, Southern African NGOs and churches together with European development agencies are looking for new models of solidarity that support community struggles for economic, gender and environmental justice. Community, NGO and faith leaders gathered at the UBUMBANO Solidarity Hub to reflect on their practice and to explore how that lived experience can inform innovative approaches to achieving social justice.
So UBUMBANO is a Nguni word that means unity or solidarity. And this process of change, this process of trying to find new forms of solidarity globally between northern partners and southern partners is driven by the lived experience of Southern Africans. And so it's important that the name reflects as well the very African nature of this initiative we're trying to do.
The change process is guided by the See, Judge, Act method of doing social analysis and action planning. The See part is the starting point and is a reflection about the work that organizations are doing. We're looking at our current practices, how we're doing things, and how we intend to change things through judging. Is it working? Is it not working? And then we end up acting and saying what new innovations are coming up and how do we do things differently. This change process invites organizations from the global north and south to reflect on traditional models of development assistance. It challenges the notion of designing programs primarily to access available funding. Rather, the call is for financial solidarity and support that listens to the experiences of local communities in their struggles and then translates that into programs that can be funded. It is inverting the process of determining what is supported by putting the struggles of local communities at the core.
You see, sometimes there will be this kind of imposing on what kind of programs that people can take up. And that becomes a bit distorted in a sense because you are living a particular experience, a particular context, and you want to respond particularly to what you experience. So it's important that people are able to be supported on the things that they feel are important for them.
Participants agreed that the power dynamics that often define the relationships between organizations from the north and those from the south must fundamentally change.
I think that it's really important that communities, community-based organizations recognize that they too have power. They can challenge partners in the north to say, wait a minute, you are supposed to be working with us, and therefore our voice is important in establishing what the agenda is. And when I say ours, I'm referring to communities.
For this change to be real, participating organizations are challenged in their own work to listen more attentively and to be guided by the voice and experiences of those who are at the coalface of injustice.
We work with the people to tell us where they are at before we even take any stand, before we even suggest anything, before we even bring our great opinions, before we even bring any solution. The starting point is always what is happening, how best do you want to go from here, what has been going on in your context, and how do you want Ujamaa to be a resource?
It empowers communities, it gives back power to them to feel that they are leading their own struggle.
The Solidarity Hub challenges all organizations to be open to exploring new ways of working, particularly when this challenges traditional approaches that might not be responsive to particular situations.
The world is changing so quickly, so we have to be alert all the time to see how do we handle this new situation, how can we contribute. So that is also one way of that we have to keep in mind, that it's not business as usual and it will change all the time. But to be able to combine the bottom-up approach with the demands that come from donors, it's a challenge, and we are trying to handle that. And the way we opened up for this process here, or contributed to that here in South Africa and in other places in the world, is one way of coming closer to that.
Participating organizations are challenged to break with traditional top-down approaches and instead to commit support to the leadership and voice of communities.
Most of communities are sometimes tired of receiving NGOs, researchers, and so on to gather information, and then most of them are not going back to work with them. So this is what we are trying to break down, make sure that we actually engage with communities and we are going back and support them in solidarity, looking to their struggles and trying to facilitate and putting them in the front line so that they can actually advocate for their rights.
The success of this new venture will lie in overcoming the divisions and silos that prevent collaboration and impact.
It always helps when you have the stories that are coming from the communities, and when you can then cross-reference with what is happening in Swaziland, what's happening in Botswana, in Zimbabwe, and you share a story that you have come across, what you've learned from another participant. Once again, it then shows that we are not in isolation, but it's once again a whole thing around solidarity, unity.
What matters is that at the end of the day, are we getting things done on the ground?
UBUMBANO Solidarity Hub seeks a solidarity that transcends geographical boundaries and connects the struggles for justice globally.
Even if the distance is far, it has also become more narrow because of the social media, the internet. We can connect in a way that was not possible before, because you can get all the information yourself. It's not just through the church leader or our organization or whatnot. So to connect people, to contribute to that, will also, I mean, as churches, as parishes or congregations, to connect to the same in the other part of the world. I think that will bring solidarity and also to bring an interest in how the world is changing, what the situation is for people in other parts of the world, and see the similarities, because we are not that much different. We have a lot in common in North and South.
By tapping into and sharing the wealth of experience that is in communities, and by putting their voices at the forefront of new collaboration, this process will realize the huge potential for new global solidarity.
I'd actually like to see much more linking of communities here in Southern Africa with communities in the UK, because when we've actually made those direct community-to-community links, we've found that often people are facing very similar challenges. And the communities aren't heterogeneous here, and they're not heterogeneous in the UK either. And the struggles that they're undergoing within their communities are often quite similar. And so there can be really creative things that come out of our work together.
The Solidarity Hub is a space for sharing practice, for sharing ideas and experiences that will allow organizations and communities to be more effective in their struggles for social justice. Through this dialogue, the basis for a new solidarity is established.
The most important thing is to invest in networks, in relationships, especially involving donors, for them to understand that this kind of work needs us to reflect more on our practice and not to look beyond our log frames, and knowing that with the greater power of relations, especially through a solidarity way of doing things, we are likely to achieve more from the investment that we put as civil society organizations.
It can't be business as usual. The world has changed. Donor organizations who want to be in solidarity with communities here have to change. NGOs who've relied on foreign funding, on donor funding, have to change. And so what we're saying is, rather than trying stuff we've been trying to do for 10, 20 years, let's upend the dynamic. Let's create a little bit of a revolution and say, how about if we stop thinking we're the experts, as the NGOs and as the donors and as the academics, and let's genuinely hear the voice of communities who are struggling for justice. Let's genuinely listen, and let's reflect on that, and let's learn from that. And in doing that, let's emerge with actions that hopefully are more transformative, that bring about change.
UBUMBANO Solidarity Hub, a new approach to building solidarity with those who struggle for justice and humanity.